Okay, hello, beautiful people. I think I'm getting sick, which is not good, but I'm making another video here because I really need to work through some things that I've been thinking about recently. And the only way to do that is to talk about it out loud and to try to work through it together. So, I have my handy dandy iPad here, and we're just gonna break down everything that I'm thinking about with this particular man that I'm talking to. Okay, so I need to get some things off my chest. Okay, so let's start by identifying the problem. Okay, I wish I could, I bet I could screen record this, but it doesn't really matter. It's not gonna be that deep. So, what is the problem? Problem multifaceted for sure. One of them is that I have an anxious attachment style. And I really don't like using words like this because I don't think it encompasses exactly who I am as a person within relationships, but for the sake of the argument here, this is the problem. I get very nervous and I self-doubt a lot within relationships. And this is evident in past relationships where I get kind of overbearing or controlling, and then on the other hand, if I do feel very nervous about a situation or wonder what's happening with a person, I have a lot of tendencies to try to mitigate this feeling by saying it doesn't matter, by kind of invalidating how I'm feeling, and that's not what I want to do with myself. So that's where I'm kind of at right now. I have an anxious attachment style, and two, I am not ready for a relationship. Okay, so these are the two problems. They're kind of interwoven together, obviously. I don't know how to work through an anxious attachment style other than kind of hoping that my future partner will be very forthcoming in how they want to be communicated with and how they want me to communicate with them, and how honesty plays into our relationship and our dynamic into growing as a couple. But for right now, I don't have the capabilities, and I am not surrounding myself with people or partners that are able to give that to me right now. So these are the problems. There's definitely a third one that I can't think of right now. Oh, okay. 3, long distance. And I don't know if I need to start separating this into differences between what I need and more versus what I want out of a relationship right now, but these are the things that we're working with. So these are the 3 problems: anxious, not ready for a relationship, long distance with said partner. Fourth, we're just gonna keep going. And this isn't supposed to knock on this person in particular. This is also just supposed to act as kind of a springboard for how I want this to play out. What's the best case scenario from this happening, and how can I achieve this best case scenario without forfeiting any of my values or hurting anyone in the process? Okay, so I don't even think there's a fourth problem. I'm just gonna erase this. Okay, so what are some positives? Some positives from this is that positives. Did I spell that right? Oh my god, whatever, it doesn't matter. Positives 1, I'm learning through each experience you learn something. I'm learning about different, not cultures, but different walks of life. And I love that saying because I think it just sums up someone's unique perspective pretty well. Because through life we walk through many different paths, and each one is going to contribute somehow to who we are and who we present ourselves, whether it is good, bad, horrible, beautiful, sexy, disgusting, ugly, all the different adjectives. But that's a positive, learning about different walks of life. And I will say that I maybe overemphasize this point a little bit too much, because I'm okay, well, maybe I'm using this as an excuse to try to convince myself that this person's personality is not aligning with mine, and that's okay, but you can still find commonalities within that. So, yes, learning about different types of people and getting introduced to food experiences, cities, you know, food experience, cities, life beyond my four walls. Okay. So those are definitely some positives that have come from this. I think where I tend to get a little bit confused is, how do I want this to end up? I want this to play out because the thing about situationships, and I also hate that word, everyone hates that word, it's overused and it's stupid. I'm gonna call this a friendship, okay? We're gonna call this a friendship just for the sake of the argument. How do I want this to play out? So there's this person, and I get along well with them, well enough to travel to another city to see them, and well enough to text them and call them pretty frequently. The negatives that I mentioned earlier is that the long distance, I have anxious attachment style, and I'm not ready for a relationship. All these things are putting a damper on what could possibly be in the future. But this is kind of where my mind gets a little bit like confused, because why am I trying to think about a future when I'm not ready for a relationship, or I'm not ready to show up 100% for this person in the way that they probably deserve, or in the way that anyone probably deserves in a relationship? But I'm also not strong enough to try to walk away from the situation. So there are a bunch of there's I can't walk away because I just hate questioning, like, what if I never did this? How would I regret anything? So I'd rather go through the thing than not regret. So go through it versus regretting, because I'm like I can bounce back. I can. It'll take me months for sure. It'll take me like a grieving period, plus, like maybe starting a new medication or going to therapy, or doing lots and lots and lots of self reflections. But I will bounce back and I will be okay. And that's what I love about myself, is that I know and will be able to reflect on these experiences and understand how they shape me and how I want to move forward. There will be roadblocks. I'm not a perfect person. Like, growth isn't linear. I'm not going to be able to do all these things that I want to be able to do in a certain amount of time. But I know that in the end, I have myself and I'll be okay, because I'm surrounded by my friends and people who support me. And I have opportunities where I can, try to fix whatever I broke. So I think that's a beautiful part of life. So, okay, again, the question that I'm running away from is, how do I want this to play out? So if I'm not going to walk away, usually I'm never the first one to walk away, which is a quality I don't like about myself. Because, there are situations where I have been the villain and I should have walked away. And there's situations where I have been the person who gets hurt multiple times over and over and over again. And I don't have the ability, I don't have the strength, I don't have the self-worth, I guess, to walk away from the situation. So these are two things that I do really want to. It's not that I'm not aware of them, which is the worst part, because you can be very, very aware of situations and know exactly what to do. It's just, following through. And like I said earlier, it's how I, learn through a situation by going through it versus learning through a situation by just avoiding it. I'm very much better at the former. So I want this to play out. I would like to probably just go no contact, be honest with the person at some point when I feel ready enough, strong enough and confident in my decision to, have a very respective and adult take on the situation. So I would probably reflect about it. That's what I'm doing right now. Reflect about what the positives and negatives of detaching myself from this person would be. One positive would be that I am back with myself. I am able to kind of just I'm able to sit with myself again and not be attached to another person where I find myself worth getting attached to another person. Then that also plays into how I'm very anxiously attached. So I can be with my own company 100%. And I sometimes slip into like, okay, well, if I'm pushing this person away, is it because I'm avoiding, being open, being vulnerable with this person? But I do think if I were to be vulnerable with this person, it's not going to end up in the way that I want the intimacy to play out. And I think I know that well enough from going through it enough times that this person will not be able to deliver the emotional depth that I require and that I want within a relationship. And right now, I'm not able to deliver any of that either. So it's just why continue? Why continue putting myself through certain things for fun, for sure? And that's where I'm gonna get into the negatives and the positives about it. So this is another positive. One, be with my own company 100% of the time. Two, try to develop healthier choices for your situation. And that means like looking for people who are in proximity with me versus someone who I need to fly out for, looking for a person who, will show up in a way that I respect more, who, I don't know, just has other qualities that I'd like to pursue a future with. Like, I don't want to pretend like I'm settling. I don't want to pretend like I am happier with someone versus just being happier alone. These are two very separate concepts that I would like to try to parse through going forward. So I wanna be able to take the action. This is like I really do want to take the actionable step of knowing what the problem is and then fixing that problem. Because like I said earlier, I definitely know what the problems are. I just can't seem to take them in my hand and to put them into action. So, okay. So, if I want this to play out, like I want to be honest with this person and how I am ending things. I think there are specific things that are important to there are things that are important to consider when sending that text or when being honest with that person that you've had kind of like an on and off or very much on friendship with for a while. So something that I want to avoid is probably the blanket statements, like the generalizations, like, oh, it's not me, or it's not you, it's me, or like we both knew this was gonna come to an end, or like stupid stuff like that. I want to make sure it's like honest and reflects how I actually feel without being too brutally honest and without being too vague in general. So maybe if I was to role play how this would play out, I would probably send a text first saying like, okay, I want to talk about something kind of serious. Is there a moment for you to chat? And I know that would bring a lot of anxiety to most people, but it's like setting someone up for exactly the conversation that you want to have. Like, you don't want them to show up like half like pissed drunk and being like, okay, I'm ready to have the conversation now. Like, you want to give them some sort of a heads up and awareness to what you're about to tell them. So one, maybe send text, a precursor, if you will. Two, get on that call, but maybe before you do the call, you have some like notes to prepare. And some people may call me an overthinker for this, but it's better to stick to a script sometimes than to just go all willy-nilly, because then you'll say things that you regret and that you don't want to share, and then you're back to square whatever, and nothing you ever said had any content because all they're feeling is offended. So there's important things. So maybe have like a general outline of things to say. Okay, and then the hardest part is having the call, right? Because then you have to commit to exactly what you said. And this is the hardest part after, making a hard decision for yourself. You have to commit to the hard decision every single day after that. And it's kind of like a drug. And this is exactly how situationships or friendships are. Then when you're trying to end them, it's like a drug. You go through withdrawals and you physically feel not great. You miss the person that you're talking to because it was kind of like starting to ingrain a habit into your daily life, and you're going to miss that certain, like, not like dopamine reward, but that certain like familiarity. And you obviously want to save yourself from that, and it's very well within your means to save yourself from this, because you could just send the text, you could just call the person, but you need to stick to the script and stick to the reminders of why you did this thing, what benefits you, how this would potentially hurt the person, and just keep on keeping on, keep it pushing, I don't know. So having the call, and then fourth, sticking to your word. Okay. So you also need to have a backup plan if things go awry, because I don't know about you, but for me, I can get very emotionally derailed is probably the best word. Emotionally derailed if it ever happens that the conversation doesn't go as planned. Like, maybe like they start crying, or like they're begging you, or like they're like, I've never done this before, I've never done X, Y, and Z, something to completely throw off your script. So you need to have a backup plan into how to address this if you feel like you're about to cave, or if you feel like you are just not going to the plan at all. And I've learned this because this has happened too many times where I'm like, shit, I didn't think of that. And maybe he's right, and maybe they're right, and I'm an asshole, and I should just keep trying, and I should just, continue to like try to make it work, and, maybe they'll be better. And it's like, maybe I'll be better. Maybe I'll give myself the tools to be able to show up for this relationship. Like, it works both ways. You are either lying to yourself and being dishonest with everything you had just previously reflected on, or you're behaving in to this person and not really benefiting the situation or you, because you are just giving in to some sort of like narrative because you're being fed a dream like relationship. And you know what? Dreams don't happen overnight, sweetie. They just don't. And even if it's not a dream, even if it's not some big ask, it doesn't happen overnight, and all the things that you were feeling before are still valid. That's what I would tell my previous self. All the things that you were still feeling before this conversation happened are valid, and they are not going to go away just because that person said X, Y, and Z in the moment. Because everyone will say something to self-preserve, or to preserve something that is safe in their mind. It's kind of like fight, flight, freeze, fawn response. You're going to want to say or do something that would prevent something bad from happening. That's who we are as human beings. Like, that's not going to go away. But you need to be able to be smarter than that initial reaction, or that initial easy route, versus taking the harder route, which is sticking to the script. So here's my script. Here's what I would maybe say to a person if I'm trying to go my own way. So you're gonna be the person. I hope this isn't triggering for you and me. What if I just start crying? So I would be like, hey, so I know that I sent you a text message today. I want to talk to you about something that's been like on my mind for a little bit. That's the introduction. You're keeping it calm. And you want to make sure, this is a large part of these specific conversations, you want to make sure you ask questions, because you don't want to just be throwing all of these things at them like in between. It's like a job interview, or like when you help someone in the hospital. They're not just going to be like, okay, you have X, Y, and Z, and then they leave. It's going to be like, I have told you this, I presented you with how I feel, how I think this is impacting my life, and I want to know your thoughts on it, and I want to know how you feel. If you have any questions, please, like, I don't want it to sound like an interview, but also you want to make sure you're like still checking in with them, because it's a human interaction. Like, there are two people in this conversation. It's not just gonna be you there sitting at the table, like shoving how you feel down their throat. That was a sidebar. So after I say, I want to talk about something serious today, I've been thinking that our relationship has been going really well recently. You're a great person, and you bring a lot of happiness and positivity into my life, and I have enjoyed, talking to you and texting you and being in whatever this situation is that we're in, whatever you want to call it, a friendship, a situationship, whatever. And I just wanted to make that clear before I, go into what I'm about to say. So recently I have been thinking that, or I recently I have been reflecting that I've been a little bit more anxious when we talk or when we don't talk, and I see this kind of impacting my daily life more than I want it to. And for this reason, I don't think it's probably healthy for me at the moment to continue talking at this frequency, and maybe it at all. I don't know if I don't exactly know what the best course of action is, and that's why I wanted to call you today to try to talk about it, because I don't want to feel anxious when we aren't talking. And that's something that I feel a lot of the time when I'm in relationships, and obviously we are not in a relationship, so I don't think this is beneficial for me to even like pretend or even to like give time and energy to feeling anxious, because we're not in a relationship. If we were in a relationship, we could definitely try to work through whatever I'm feeling, maybe with like increased communication or different, strategies that we can both continue to work on. But because I don't want to demand anything of you other than, what we're doing right now, I don't think it's fair for me to ask you to do X, Y, and Z things when we aren't in something that is super serious in that way. And so that's why I am trying to, take a step back and reflect on how I feel comparatively to just, either ghosting you, which I don't really do, or just, completely ending whatever we're doing. So I'd like to hear your thoughts about it. And this isn't meant to be like the final conversation. Like if you need time to like think about it, you definitely can take that space, and I will respect that. I'm just bringing this up because this is something that has been on my mind, and yeah, that's how I would probably frame it. I'm not exactly sure if that would be the best way, because I just stuttered a lot, and my thoughts kind of jumped everywhere. But again, I didn't have a script, so obviously I would have probably more of like a flow of how I want things to go. But the main problem that I'm seeing with what I just said is that I don't think this person's gonna care, which is probably the biggest indicator that I should walk away from this relationship, because it's like it's like the memes that are like you send the big block text, and then like the response is like one liner. It's like, I don't know why you said all that. It's gonna be something like that, because I tend to overthink a lot of things to the degree where it will, like, it's in my notes app. Like I'm making a 20-minute long video talking about it. Like this person is not doing that type of self-reflection or that type of thinking, because it is casual, and I maybe it's just because I'm crazy. So maybe that's the summary, that I feel a little bit crazy right now, a little bit crazy, a little bit anxious, and I know this person isn't feeling that way. They're probably sitting at home on watching TV and smoking and hanging out with his friends, which is awesome. I don't knock on that at all, because we are not in a relationship, and he does not owe me anything than just like general human kindness. And I want to make that very clear with myself, and I want to remind myself of that, because even though I'm feeling all of these heavy things and I want to tell someone how they're feeling or how I'm feeling, it's not, I should probably accept the fact that it probably won't carry the same weight for them as it does for me, because we're not in the business of caring that much when we're not in a relationship. But we do owe each other a certain amount of like human decency and kindness and honesty. It's just that to some degree you can't expect too much from people, and I wish that I had a different perspective on that, but I think that's the truth. If you start to set the bar too high, if you try to expect too much from people who don't have the capacity to deliver it to you right now, and never really showed you that they did from the beginning, then you are just kind of setting yourself up to be disappointed. And maybe a therapist can figure that out for me. Riddle me that, weather boy. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now. I think I should have this conversation soon with this person rather than later. But I don't want it just to be like out of the... I just don't want to care too much. I think it's awesome that I care this much. I think it's beautiful that I can reflect and understand my emotions well enough and know what the right thing to do for myself right now. It's just that I don't want to continue the narrative of like women are crazy. Women think too much about things. They are just over here, you know, playing out every single scenario when this person doesn't give a shit at all. And maybe they do care to some capacity, but it's not the capacity that I want. I want more. I want love. No, I don't know. I don't know what I want. And that's probably another issue that I should add. I don't know what I want. And a lot of these things are not their fault in this situation. It is very much my own doing for getting myself too hopeful within a certain situation when I should have just kept it surface level. I should learn how to separate certain things from each other, and I will continue to learn. But for right now, we have to have these self-reflections and hard conversations, because how else are we going to learn from them? So that's my big long spiel. Thanks for listening, and wish me some luck. Bye.